I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. And this is This Week
in Cruton.
It's This Week in Recruiting and This Week in Delay from Next Level Athlete, from our buddy Greg Powers, Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter, Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. And this is, of course, brought to you by our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. Chicken Express! It's good enough for the Longview Lobos football team.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, they had boxes
saying you're
on
better than the
boxes
Lobos?
last week.
Last week we were at.
I think they've been listening to the show.
We were listening to. We were at the West Mesquite versus Longview game, and after the game, Longview's getting ready to get on the bus, and all these boys are walking out of the locker room with that beautiful yellow box, and I'm like, man, Longview takes care of their kids.
It was so good.
You want to talk about a post-game meal? That's awesome. All right, let's get to This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers and Next Level Athlete. We'll start with our prospect on the rise. Our prospect on the rise, perhaps you heard about his game this week. 2022 Rockwall Heath running back Zach Evans went berserker against Rockwall, but everybody kind of did. He ran for 270 yards and 5 touchdowns in their thrilling double overtime win over Rockwall, 79-71. He's got 13 touchdowns on the year. He's a 3-star prospect, according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football, committed to Minnesota, and certainly the future Golden Gopher made his presence felt in their big rivalry game.
I think maybe that's a candidate for Game of the Year, 79-71. Man, what a game. And Evans rushed for 270 yards and 5 touchdowns, kind of leading that charge. He's now rushed for, I think, over 700 yards, 13 touchdowns on the season. Their offense is really clicking. And just to kind of go over some of the stat lines in that game, Josh Hoover passed for 365 yards and 4 touchdowns. Heath is a team that's full of top-level talent. Jordan Neighbors and Jay Fair, the wide receivers duo there, both went over 100 yards and caught a touchdown in that game. And then on the other side of the football, you had some Rockwall guys. I mean, how about this? Zach Hernandez rushed for 260 yards, and people are talking about Zach Evans so much, who rushed for 10 more yards than him. The difference being that Zach Evans scored 5 touchdowns, and Zach Hernandez scored 1 touchdown, while Braden Locke was lighting up the scoreboard with 3 touchdowns of his own. Just a track meet out in Rockwall. That game is just always fun. And I remember just a couple years ago, it was like a defensive slugfest as Rockwall Heath was able to pull off a last-second win. There they were running like the wing T or whatever they were running back just only a few years ago. So it's definitely changed out in Rockwall County.
It's big doings out there in Rockwall County, and a big reason why is what Zach Evans was able to do last week in their big game. Let's go to our commit of the week. Our commit of the week, I feel like we talk a lot about this guy. Fort Arthur Memorial cornerback, Jalen Gilbo. He is, at one point, he was a Texas commit. He decommitted from Texas. He is now committed to TCU. The number 33 prospect in the DCTF Hot 100 goes to the Horned Frogs. We've talked a little bit about him in the past, but you want to talk about a big pickup for the Horned Frogs defense on the back end. Jalen Gilbo is kind of one of those central guys that you put up. Whenever your press release on signing day comes out, he's one of the guys that you certainly put up in the first paragraph.
Yeah, no doubt. And he had offers from a lot of the top schools throughout the country. And his top 3 were 3 in-state schools, TCU, Texas, and Texas A&M. So that is, a huge in-state victory for TCU. We kind of alluded to this back when he decommitted from Texas, that he had taken in and worked in an official visit to TCU. And after that visit, he decommitted from the Longhorns. And that gave us a pretty good indication that the Horned Frogs were in a really good spot to land Gilbo. And why I really like this commitment for TCU is I feel like he fits the mold of the TCU defense. He's an aggressive cornerback with size, loves to press, loves to force action on the defensive side of the ball, and plays with a certain swagger that makes him a top-rated guy, but he doesn't get out of position. And, that's a disciplined coach defense there, and I think that Gilbo will fit in there pretty well.
Yeah, it's a huge get there for Gary Patterson and company, bringing in Jalen Gilbo, the number 33 prospect in the DCTF Hot 100. Talking This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers, the Next Level Athlete here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag TF Today. Let's matriculate to our underclassman of the week, and I'm actually very glad you put this guy on here because he's been on my radar for a couple of weeks. Dripping Springs 2023 a quarterback, Austin Novosad. And he's a guy that last year was the district newcomer of the year. He's starting to pick up a little bit of traction. He's got offers from places like Baylor, Texas Tech, SMU, UTSA, Vanderbilt has offered him. He picked up an offer this week from Kansas. Maybe, I don't know. I never have a good feel for like who's paying attention to what. That's just a very bad like part of my game here. It feels to me that this guy's flying under people's radar because I think Austin Novosad is pretty darn good.
I agree with you 100%. As a matter of fact, I think the Kansas offer this week was his 10th offer, so now he has double-digit offers, and I don't think a lot of people are mentioning his name as much as they should be. So I was very excited to have the chance to kind of feature him this week as well. And one thing that I noticed breaking down his film is he is a quarterback who plays consistently and under control, and I love that. You know, he has that frame, 6'3", 180. When he gets to college, he'll have no problem beefing up and playing 210 pounds. That's not going to be an issue. He has the frame that these colleges look for, but he's super smart and savvy too. Just no panic. This guy has no panic whenever he is looking to find an open receiver. And I guess when you have 10 offers, it's not fair to say that you are a sleeper, but in many ways he is a sleeper just because he's not mentioned with some of the top quarterbacks in the country. And one thing that jumps out to me about that offer list, actually there's two things that jump out to me about that offer list. First being offers from Rice and Vanderbilt, which tell you how smart a young man Novosad is. And number two, he has 7 in-state offers. So he almost has he's pick up a few more offers from in-state schools, and he's going to have them all. You know, so in-state schools are really fired up about his talents, and that is an indication to me that he's going to be a big-time prospect.
He's a guy that certainly need to know. Dripping Springs quarterback Austin Novosad, a junior this year. Let's round it all out this week in recruiting. Let's round it all out with our recruit of the week. Our recruit of the week, going down Newton way, going to talk about the Anthony Gatson, their 2022 running back. We sat here on this program, and I asked you about I asked you, I was like, hey, you know, USC just fired their coach. Does that have any sort of impact on DeAnthony Gatson? And you kind of said, well, you know, a lot of times when guys fire their coach, decommits follow. Newton running back DeAnthony Gatson has decommitted from USC. He picked up an offer this week from Mizzou. He's already taken official visits to Colorado and Texas. He's got offers from places like Baylor, Houston, TCU, Tech, etc. DeAnthony Gatson open for business again, and a guy that I feel like gonna get pursued pretty heavily now that he's back on the market.
And as I'm talking, we're going to see some highlights from his big-time game against Woodville this year. And I think it's important to watch those clips because what you're seeing out of Gatson is he's added some size even to what was already an impressive frame. He just runs over people. You know, he is a guy who is a bruising running back. We threw that term out last week, too, when we were featured another big-time running back. But this is like one of the premier bigger-bodied running backs in the entire country. He checks in at number 51 in the DCTF Hot 100, so he's one spot away from being a 4-star prospect, and that was a really tough call. There are guys jockeying for position within that list, and there are some guys who are having tremendous senior seasons, and Gatson is one of them. I'm interested to see how this thing plays out. I look at the Texas roster right now, and this is a school that he took an official visit to before he made the decision to commit to USC, and they have some running backs on that commit list and on that roster, but none of them are like Gatson, who could be that true goal line type of back to really punch it in and be a difference maker when you're trying to score points in big games against top teams. He took an official visit to Colorado as well, and they should certainly be in the mix. And he has 2 NCAA allowed official visits remaining. So it'll be really interesting to see which schools, you know, get in the mix to get that trip. Missouri stepped up with an offer for him this week. And there's schools on that list that kind of catch my eye, like Oklahoma State seems like it would really do well with a player like DeAnthony Gadsden. So we'll see who turns up their pursuit of him now that he's off of USC's commitment list, and see where he ultimately ends up. But there are going to be a lot of schools who want this guy on their team.
You know, one of the guys that everybody wants on their team is Greg Powers, Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at NextLevelD1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Powers, appreciate your time, my man, and we will do this again next week.
See y'all then.
There he is, Greg Powers, Next Level Athlete, for This Week in Recruiting. All things recruiting in the state of Texas, TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Our buddy.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.